Greetings. First, let me introduce myself. I am JVM Bancaya, and I am here to report about the Codex Alimentarius for raw and processed fish, mollusk, crustaceans, and seaweeds together with my group mates, and we are the group 3. Sorry for the mga noise sa background, guys. Here, let me read the objective of this report. The first objective is to understand the guidelines, practices, and other activity measures under Codex Alimentarius. Next is to know the standard that provided by the Codex Alimentarius. First, let me explain what is Codex Alimentarius. Here in the slide, it states that the Codex Alimentarius is a food law. When you say about food law, it means it is specific. It is the standard. It is constant. Okay? So here, the slide is too broad. So let me explain to you in a more shorter or more specific way. The Codex Alimentarius is essentially a compilation of international recognized food standard. These standards cover various aspects of food safety, quality, and trade practices. Presenting this standard in a uniform manner, meaning that they are organized and formatted consistently, making them accessible and understandable for governments, regulatory bodies, food producers, and consumers worldwide. The uniformity helps the international trade to facilitate by providing a common reference point for assessing the safety and quality of food products or the fishery products itself. Next is the Codex General Standard for the labeling of prepackaged food. The standard applies to the labeling of all prepackaged food to be offered as such to the consumers or for catering purposes into a certain aspect relating to the presentation thereof. We'll proceed about the claims. Okay, the definition of terms muna tayo. The first term is the claim, which means that it refers to any statement suggested the qualities of the food, its origin, the nutrition, processes, and composition. Okay? Next is the consumer. Consumer is us, simply us, who consumes the product, the fishery product, or the food. Next is the container. Container means any packaging of food delivery as a single items, whether by completely or partially enclosing the food, and which includes wrappers and such. Yung lagayan ng food or fishery product, that is the container. Next is the date of manufacture, kung kailan siya ginawa. Means the date on which the food becomes a product as described, kung kailan siya ginawa. Yun pala yung tama na term. The date of packaging, kung kailan siya nakapack, kung kailan siya nilagay sa pack, kung kailan siya nilagay sa container. The sell by date, meaning kung yan yung date kung kailan na distribute yung product, ensuring a reasonable storage period and home afterward. Okay? Next is the date for minimum durability or best before, the expiry date. Okay? That is the date of minimum durability, means the date on which signifies the end of the period. So it means the expiry date. Next is the use by date, recommended large consumption date, expiration date. Next is the food additive. So itong food additive, hindi mo ito pwedeng kainin na directly kainin. But the food additive is yung nilalagay siya muna sa ingredient siya sa isang ka-food. Ingredient siya sa isang ka-food for you to consume the food para it helps also for preservation of the food. Next is the ingredients. Simply the substance used for the product. Yung mga ginagamit nila ng mga spices, yung yung nilagay nila doon, yung simply the fish or the fishery product itself, kung ano yung mga ingredients na nilagay doon, kung ano yung mga substance na nilalagay doon, yun yung tinatawag na ingredients. Okay? Next is the label. Label meaning it can be a sticker na naka-attach doon sa food container, kung ano yung name ng product and such. Next is the labeling. And compromises written it's either written, printed, or graphic matter that is present on the label accompanies the food or is displayed near the food, including that for the purpose of promoting its sale or disposal. Parang yung labeling yun yung pagkakakilanlan ng food. Okay? Next is the lot. Means a definitive quantity of a commodity produced essentially under the same condition. Lot indicates a definitive quantity of a commodity produces under similar conditions. Kung meaning, kung ilan sila, kung ilan yung product na nirelease sa market. The pre-packed, which means the package are made up in advance in a container ready for offer to the consumer or for catering purposes. It is understandable naman. The processing aid means a substance or materials not including the apparatus or the utensils and not consumed as a food ingredients by itself. No, it denotes as a substance aiding processing, not consumed as a food ingredient alone. Next is the foods for catering purposes. Simply means that these foods are used in restaurant, canteens, schools, hospitals, and similar institutions where food is offered for immediate consumption. Kailangan ma-consume siya agad-agad. Next is the prepackaged food. I explained it already. Next is the mandatory labeling for packaged food. The first is in terms of labeling, the name of the food, which means it clearly identifies the name of the product. Next is the list of the ingredients. The ingredients should provide a comprehensive list of all the ingredients used in the product. The process aids and carryover of food additives, which means disclose any processing aids and any carry-off for food additives. Next is the net contents and drain weigh. Specify the net weight or volume of the product, and if applicable, the drained weight for products and packed in liquid. Next is the name and address. It should include the name and address of the manufacturer, the packer, and the distributor. Next is the country of origin. It should indicate the country where the product was manufactured or produced. Yung mga makikita natin na made in the Philippines, made in China, yun. The product should have that label. Next is the lot identification. Assigned a lot number or code to identify the specific batch or production run. It is very understandable kung anong batch sila ng product. Next is the date marking and storage instruction. Display the date of manufacture, the best before, the date of expiration date, this and that, along with its necessary storage instruction. Kung paano natin siya i-store for it to be consumed na hindi siya mainitan or so. The instruction for use, it should provide any relevant instruction for proper use or consumption of the products. I will proceed about the We have the two additional mandatory requirements, which is the quantitative labeling of the ingredients. It should specify the quantities of key ingredients used in the product. Next is irradiated food. If the food has been irradiated or kung nainita na ba siya, it should be clearly labeled as such to inform consumers kasi there are lots of pros and cons when if the product is irradiated na siya, if nainita na siya. Next is the exemption for mandatory labeling requirements. It should some of its exemption is the small packages, single ingredient food, food sold in bulk, this and that. The labeling, it might include the nutritional information, the health claims, the certificate and seals, this and that. Next is the presentation of mandatory information, the general information of the product and the language being used kasi in terms na for exportation, for a reason na for exportation yung product, it should be consumer friendly, which means that the language should be suitable doon kung saan papunta yung product. Okay, next, the Codex General Standard for Labeling of Food Additives, which sold as such. The standard labeling of food additives sold as such whether by retail or other than by retail, including the sales to caterers and food manufacturers for the purpose of their businesses. These standards also applies to food processing aids in reference to food additives, including food processing aids. When you say about for the context, when you talk about the food additive, it refers to a substance not typically consumed as a food alone. As I said earlier, used as a common ingredient in the food, regardless of its nutritional value. Next is the processing aids, which means that they denote substance or materials, including the equipment, not consumed as food alone. It should not consume as food alone, but assisting in food processing. Next. Okay. Here's some definition of terms. So I explained it earlier, the food additive, the processing aid. Next, we will proceed to the contaminants. The contaminants are, which means any substance unintentionally present in the food due to production processes, including those in agriculture and especially in our field, which is the fish processing field. We cannot deny the fact that we need to have a double na security in terms for like PPEs, this and that, because there are lots of contamination, there are lots of bacteria around. Maybe we are one of the contributors in terms of contaminants. That's why we need to be hygienic in terms of when we are packing or when we are doing or making any food and fishery products. Next is the label, okay? Any tag, brand marks, pictorial, other descriptive matter, it's either written, printed, this and that. Next, labeling, explained it earlier also. The container, the ingredients, the sale by retail means to sell the person buying otherwise for the purpose of resale, but does not include a sale to caterers for the purposes of their catering businesses, or a sale to manufacturer for the purposes of manufacturing businesses. Okay. Any sale to the sale by retail are it can be any sale to an individual for personal use. They can resale it. It does not include the sales to cater or any catering services at all. Oh my god. The general principles: the food additive shall not be described or presented in on any label or any labeling in a manner that is false, misleading, or deceptive, or is likely to create an erroneous impression regarding their character or any respect. Meaning, the label or labeling should not contain words, images, or other elements that directly or indirectly imply characteristics that are inaccurate or misleading. So, meaning when you do in terms of putting some additives in the label, it should be fact. It should be enough. It should be accurate. The mandatory labeling. Next is the mandatory labeling of prepackaged food additives sold by retail. Next is the details of the food additive. The name of each food additive present shall be given. The name shall be specific and not generic, or it should not be general, and shall indicate the true nature of the food additive. Kung accurate information about the food additive used in the food or in the fisher product. Next is if two or more food additives are present, their name shall be given in the form of a list. The list shall be in order for the proportion by weight, which each food additive bears the total contents of the container. The food additive present in the greatest proportion by weighing being listed first. Kung sino yung mas mabigat or mas maraming food additive yung ginagamit, it should be the first na nakalist doon sa label. Next is the number 3. In case of mixtures of flavorings, the name of each flavoring present in the mixture need not be given. The generic expression, the flavor or flavoring may be used together with a true indication of the nature of the flavoring, which means when dealing with the blends of flavorings, individual flavor names aren't required. Listed, the terms flavor or flavoring can be used along with an accurate description of the flavor. Hindi siya parehas sa food additive na it should be specific. Ito, pwede mong gamitin yung generic expression niya. The next is the food additive with a shelf life not exceeding 18 months shall carry the date of minimum durability using words such as will kept at least until. So, food additives with a shelf life not exceeding 18 months should include a date of minimum durability on the label. Next is the words for food use or a statement substantially similar thereto shall appear in a prominent position of the label. Labels should prominently display the words for food use or a similar statement indicating that the product is intended for consumption. Next is the mandatory labeling of prepackaged food additive sold by retail. The first is the instruction on keeping and use. It should provide guidance on how to store and use the product safely and effectively. Next is the net contents. It should clearly state the quantity or volume of the product inside the packaging. Next is the name and the address. It should include the name and address of the manufacturer, the packer, and the distributor. Next is the country of origin. As what I said back then, for example, made in the Philippines, made in China, made in Taiwan. It should indicate the country which the product was manufactured or produced. Next is the lot identification, the batch, kung the assigned lot number or the code to identify the specific batch of or production run of the product. Next, the general information of the product. Next is the presentation of mandatory information First is it should state the required to appear the label by virtue of this standard or any other coding standard shall be clear, prominent, and readily legible by the consumer under normal conditions of purchase and use. Next is the language being used, as what I said earlier. Next is the irradiated food additive. Food additive which have been treated with ionized radiation shall be designated. Next is optional labeling. Any information or pictorial device may be displayed in labeling provided that it is not in conflict with the mandatory requirement, nor would mislead or deceive the consumer in any way whatsoever in respect of the food additive that is being used in the food or the fisher product. Okay, let's proceed to the general standard for the labeling of all claims for the pre-packed foods for special diet use. First, its scope. The standard implies to labeling of prepackaged foods designed for a special diet needs, ensuring the accurate representation and appropriate claims. It should have that scope. Next is the description. The foods for special dietary uses are those specially processed or formulated to meet the particular dietary needs due to specific conditions or diseases. Uses of those food which are specially processed or formulated satisfying particular dietary requirements such as existing because of a particular physical or physiological condition or specific diseases and disorder and which are present as such. Okay, next is the general principle. The general principle, it is too broad. I will give you the specific ideas, which means that the labels must not mislead the consumer, and it emphasizes the professional advice may still be necessary. Next is the mandatory labeling of pre-packed foods for special dietary uses. Pre-packed food or pre-packed specially dietary food must include specific information such as the name, the ingredients, the nutritional content, the net weight, the manufacturer detail, the country of origin, the lot identification, date marking, and storage instruction. Okay, next is the name of the food. The addition of to the declaration of the name of the food in accordance with the section 4.1 of the general standard of the following provisions apply. The designation special dietetic or inappropriate equivalent term may be used in conjunction with the name only where the product corresponds to the definition in section 2.1. Next is the nutritional labeling. The declaration of nutrition information of the label. It should include the amount of energy per grams. We can use the expression or the units, the kilocalories or the kilojoules, the number of grams of proteins, and also the total quantity of the specific nutrients in the food, present in the food or in the fisher product. Next is net contents and drain weights. The declaration of net contents and drain weights shall be in accordance with the section 4.3 of General Standard. Next is the name and address. As what I said earlier, the name and address of the manufacturer, the packer, and the distributor. The country of origin. For example, those made in the Philippines, made in China, this and that. The lot identification, kung anong batch siya ng product, kung pang-ilang batch siya ng product. Next is the date marking and storage instruction, kung ano yung gagawin mo para ma-store yung product in a more safety way pa to avoid contaminants. Next is the storage of opened food, storage instruction of opened packages of a food for special dietary uses shall be included in the label if necessary to ensure that the opened product maintains its wholesomeness and nutritive value. Next is the additional mandatory requirements of specific foods, the quantitative labeling of the ingredients, the claims, the irritated foods, the exemptions from mandatory labeling requirements, the optional labeling, the presentation of mandatory information. And I explained it earlier.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roshapay Jaime, and today I'm going to discuss the guidelines for use of nutrition claims. So first, I will going to read the scope. First is these guidelines relate to the use of nutrition claims in food labeling. Next is these guidelines apply to all foods for which nutrition claims are made without prejudice to specific provisions under Codex standards for guidelines relating to foods for special dietary uses and foods for special medical purposes. And these guidelines are intended to supplement the Codex General Guidelines on Claims and do not supersede any prohibitions and contained therein. So, next, let's proceed to the definition of terms. So, first is the nutrition claim, so which means any representation which states or suggests or implies that a food has particular nutritional properties, including but not limited to the energy value and to the content of protein, fat, and carbohydrates, as well as the content of vitamins and minerals. So, this nutrition claim is, we can see this in the back portion of the product or the food that we buy in the store. And then, under a nutrition claim, is we have the nutrient content claim, comparative claim, and nutrient function claim. So when we say nutrient content claim, it is a nutrition claim that describes the level of a nutrient contained in a food. So for example, in a product, its sugar nutrient content claims is it is a sugar-free, and also other example is it is low in fat, or this product is high in fiber. And then next is the comparative claim. So comparative claim is defined as a claim that compares the nutrient levels or energy value of two or more foods. So another example for this product is defined like, for example, 3 grams more fiber than one slice of brand brand X. So when we say uh, from the title itself is gina-compare niya ang product from that other product. And then next is the nutrient function claim. It is a nutrition claim that describes the physiological role of the nutrient in growth, development, and normal functions of the body. So sometimes we can see it in the commercial TV, like for example, this calcium builds the strong bones, or otherwise, this helps to protect your teeth from cavity, like that. And then next is the nutrition labeling. Any food for which a nutrition claim is made should be labeled with a nutrient declaration in accordance with Section 3 of the Codex Guidelines on Nutrition Labeling. And then nutrition claims, the only nutrition claims permitted shall be those relating to energy, protein, carbohydrate, and fat, and components thereof, like fiber, sodium, and vitamins and minerals, for which nutrient reference values have been laid down in the Codex Guidelines for Nutrition Labeling. Content claims, comparative claims, and nutrient function claims is na-discuss na earlier. And then next is the claims related to dietary guidelines or healthy diets. So this one claims that relate to dietary guidelines or healthy diets should be permitted subject to the following conditions. Next, let's proceed to the general guidelines for use of the term halal. So the scope, or these guidelines recommend measures to be taken on the use of halal claims in food labeling. These guidelines apply to the use of the term halal and equivalent terms in claims as defined in the general standard for the labeling of prepackaged foods, and include its use in trademarks, brand names, and business names. Then these guidelines are intended to supplement the Codex General Guidelines and Claims and do not supersede any provision contained therein. So the definition, we have here the halal food, which means food permitted under the Islamic law and should fulfill the following conditions, which is discussed later. So we have three criteria for use of the term halal. So the lawful food, the term halal may be used for foods which are considered lawful. Under the Islamic law, all sources of food are lawful except the following sources, including their products and derivatives which are considered unlawful. So I will going to discuss the food of animal origin, the plant, drink, food additives, and how the process of slaughtering, which is very unlawful to the uh, Islamic law. So in animals, there are two categories, or it can be divided into two categories, which is land animals and aquatic animals. So in land animals is it is considered that all land animals are lawful food, but except the following, such as the pigs, dogs, the animals that has a long pointed teeth, and such as birds, then animals like scorpions, snakes, crows, centipedes, and amphibians such as crocodiles and turtles. And then in plant origin, so all types of plants also can be considered as halal, but except those poisonous or uh, plants that is very hazardous to consume. And then sa drinks, all kinds and water and beverage are halal, but except those poisonous or hazardous to health. And then through the process of slaughtering is it is lawful for the slaughtering of lawful animals should be fully separated from that of non-lawful animals in accordance with the following regulation. So the slaughtering should be done by a mentally sound Muslim who is conversant with the rules and conditions of slaughtering in Islam. So the animal has to be fully alive, and during slaughtering is they should use a very sharp tool in order for them to be easy to kill or slaughter that animal. And then preparation, processing, packaging, transportation, and storage. So all food should be prepared, uh, processed, packaged, transported, and stored in such a manner that it complies with under Section 2.1 and 2.1 above the Codex General Principles on Food Hygiene and other relevant codex standards. So all halal products are stored, displayed, or even sold or served should be categorized and should be labeled as halal. And then uh, the products or ingredients does not contain of any components or products of animals that are unlawful by their so-called Sharia law or animals that are slaughtered according to Sharia law. Next, let's proceed to the raw and processed fish. So guidelines for the sensory evaluation of fish and shellfish laboratories. So the scope and purpose of the guidelines. The guidelines are intended to be used by analysis who need to apply sensory methods when using criteria based on sensory attributes of the products. Although the guidelines have been written with the codex requirements in mind, they include some provisions for products not covered by these standards, but where sensory evaluation is used in the testing of fishery products for conformity requirements. So, in facilities for sensory evaluation, is we have the general observation. So the general observation is where the sensory evaluation should be carried out by adequately trained personnel. So they evaluate a specialized range of products and use one sensory methodology. And then the laboratories for sensory evaluation is we have here the location, and layout. As you can see here, we have the preparation area, evaluation area, equipment, and equipment. So the preparation area, the preparation area is this area is used for the handling and storage of fishery products. So for the preparation of samples, like for the sensor evaluation, so it should be constructed to comply the requirements for good manufacture practices for the design and construction of fishery establishment. So the rooms should be designed to ensure that the cooking odors do not interfere with the sensory analysis. And the next is the evaluation area. So evaluation area is there should be a no preparation of products in this area other than the final trimming of samples prior to cooking. So the area, it has the ventilation procedures and sample sequence, and this should be like organized in order to minimize the or in order to stop or like maiwasan na madisturbo yung sensory stimuli. Then also these influence and disturbances from fellow evaluators and other personnel like should be minimized, as well as the color of evaluation is should be neutral. And the next is the equipment. So the equipment, so the exact type and amount of equipment is like required because it depends here the extent or the nature of the products that need to be inspected and the volume and frequency of all the examinations that under or like magamit sa equipment. And the next is the procedures for sensory evaluation. So collecting and transporting samples. In most circumstances where fishery products are subjected to sensory evaluation, a decision is made about a batch of fish, for example, acceptance or rejection of a consignment of imported products, classification of batches of fish on a market into freshness grades. The decision is made on the basis of an examination of a sample drawn for the batch according to the guidelines, which will usually specify how a sample is to be taken for the intended regulatory or commercial purpose of the examination. So during collecting and transporting samples, so the the inspector should ensure that the procedures for taking the sample is they should be very careful in order to um, like dili maapektuhan ang sensory properties. So they should handle it with care, and they should be careful when inspecting the sample. And also is they should check the sample if it is properly packed, or if necessary the they should check if or control the temperature before dispatching to the inspection laboratory. So, if that sample is dili siya ma-under sa supervision sa officials during transport, is dapat ang inspector should ensure that the sample is like cannot be tampered during the trimming. So, that is how they collect or how they transport the samples. And then the preparation of samples for examination. So in Table 1 in Annex 1 presents attributes useful in evaluating some species and products. Procedures for preparation of samples should be appropriate for the product. So according to the data, there are some procedures relative to fresh or frozen fin fish during the preparation of samples for examination. So, for example, the fish, if entire, is should be gutted or the gut should retain. So the head are removed, the fillet from one side to taken off, and the portions should be assembled on tray for analysis. And then for quick frozen products is they should be examined or should be laid out for examination in the evaluation area. And then also the other example is the frozen products is should be or require that it should be first examined during its frozen state. And then next is cooking. In cases in cases where a final decision on odor or gelatinous state cannot be made in the thawed and cooked state, a small portion of disputed material, approximately 200 grams, is sectioned from the sample unit and the odor and flavor of gelatinous condition confirmed by cooking without delay by one of the following cooking methods. So these are the following procedure under cooking. So first is the baking procedure. In baking procedure, the product should be wrapped in aluminum foil and placed evenly on a flat cookie sheet or shallow flat pan. The next is the steaming procedure. The product should also be wrapped in aluminum foil and it should be placed on a wire rack suspended over boiling water in a covered container. And the next is boil in bag procedure. The product should place in a boilable film type pouch and seal, then immerse the pouch in boiling water and cook. Then last procedure is the microwave. Enclose the product in a container suitable for microwave cooking. If plastic bags are used, check to ensure that no odor is imparted from the plastic bags. Cook according to equipment instructions, or the instructions should be followed according to the equipment that has been used. So the procedures for the assessment of products. Standards, standards and specifications for fishery products will specify the features of the product that are able to evaluated and the criteria for accepting or rejecting products or for allocating them to grades. Then assessment of raw products. Fresh fish will normally be assessed by appearance and odor. Fish change in appearance in a number of ways during spoilage in ice, and it is not usually difficult to accurately grade ice fish by appearance alone. Then assessment of frozen products. Frozen fish should be examined in the frozen state. The assessor should note the nature and state of any wrappings and glaze, and the product should be examined for any discolorations and for the extent and depth of any dehydration. So also the assessor should know that if there is any signs that the product have during the uh, or when we say the product might have been thawed and refrozen. So the signs of slumping or distortion of blocks, the collection of frozen drip in pockets in the wrappings. So so the partial that is the sign of the partial loss of glaze. So the thawed sample should be presented and it should be examined as for the corresponding unfrozen product where appropriate. And then the assessment of cooked samples. cooked samples should be held in a closed container, allowed to cool to a comfortable tasting temperature, and kept warm unless they are assessed immediately. Products which have already been cooked, for example, cooked shrimp, should be warmed up slightly. And then also here, the assessor should note that the appearance of the product is, they should record the appearance of the product, like any unusual features. So as well as the odor should be assessed, its character, and particularly if any unusual odors like chemical taints, is it should be recorded. And then the training assessor. So under training assessors is the objective sensory training. So considerations for objective sensory training. Objective sensory testing measures the intrinsic sensory attributes of a sample through the analytic sensory perceptions of human assessors. In order to conduct objective sensory analysis of fish and fish products, assessors must be selected for their ability to perform the sensory task required, must be trained in the application of the required test methods, and must be monitored for their ongoing ability to perform the sensory task. So in considering for the assessor during the sensory evaluation is that person or that assessor have the ability to perform the sensory task required during the sensory evaluation. So the training includes during sensory is first the selection of assessors for basic sensory acuity and for the ability to describe perceptions analytically, like without the effect of personal bias. So the allergy to seafood or to some food additives could eliminate an analyst candidate. And then also the development of the analytical capability of familiarization with test procedures, like they should be familiar with the test procedures, the improvement of ability to recognize the eye or to identify the sensory attributes in complex food systems. And also there is a improvement of sensitivity and the memory that he or she can provide a precise, consistent, and standardized sensory measurements which can be reproduced during sensory evaluation. And then also the monitoring of is assessor's performance and the consistency of their analytic decisions by the frequent periodic assessment of the sensory decisions. So overall, the criteria for a assessor is they should be flexible enough, like enough that can be they can handle a proper during sensory evaluation.
I am Rose Darlene P. Veloso. I'll be reporting the part of raw and processed fish, part 4.1.2, the selection of candidate assessors. So a candidate assessors for a trainee should demonstrate that he or she is not anosmic. Anosmic or anosmia meaning inability to smell. So dapat ang candidate for assessor i-demonstrate niya na dili siya wala siya anosmia. Number two, a candidate for assessor is not aggressive. Aggressive or agasmia meaning complete loss of taste. So, dapat i-demonstrate niya ang taste testing. Number three, has normal color vision and is able to detect anomalies in the appearance of fish and fish product in a consistent manner. So, dapat i-demonstrate niya na naa siya normal color vision and ma-detect niya kung ano man ang mga anomalies and appearance sa isa ka fish and fishery product. Number 4, a candidate for assessor is able to rely on sensory perception and to report them appropriately. So, dapat i-demonstrate niya kung paano ang sensory perception and paano ang pag-report appropriate. Next is number 5. A candidate assessor is able to learn terminology for new or unfamiliar perceptions, such as odors, taste, appearance, textures, and to report them subsequently. Dapat i-demonstrate niya din kung ano yung mga bago na natutunan niya ng mga terminology and familiar perceptions. Number 6, dapat ang candidate assessor is able to define sensory stimuli and relate them to an underlying cause in the product. Next is the screening for perception of basic taste. So it is important that the diversity of flavors, especially of defect from decomposition, which the inspector will be required to perceive and describe, make it essential that some indication of the general ability to perceive basic taste be established. So this table 1, there are several types for basic taste, such as standard compound used in water, DFO screening test, Milcard et al., Jelinek, ASTM, and Weissengener and Moskowitz. Sa basic taste such as bitter, sour, salt, sweet, umami, sa different types of tests, makita natin na ang caffeine sa DFO screening test, it should be 0.06%. And sa Milgar et al., ang caffeine is 0.05 to 0.2%. Sa Jelinek test naman, ang caffeine is 0.02 and 0.03%. Sa ASTM test naman, ang caffeine is 0.035 to 0.07 and 0.14%. And last, sa Weissengener and Moskowitz na test, ang caffeine is about to 0.15% lang. Then, sa SAR, sa citric acid, kung i-use in water siya, ang percent sa DFO screening test is 0.06%, while the Milgard et al. Test is 0.05 to 0.20%. The Jelinek test is the 0.02 to 0.03 and 0.04%. Another test is the ASTM. Ang citric acid dapat nasa 0.03 to 0.07 and 0.14% lang. And last, sa Weissengener and Moskowitz na test, dapat ang citric acid is 0.01% lang. Next is salt. Sa sodium, kung i-ano siya sa water, ang sodium chloride is sa screening test sa DFO is about 0.02% lang. Then sa Milcard et al., 0.2 to 0.7%. Next is the Jelinek test is 0.08 to 0.15% lang. Then sa ASTM test is 0.1, 0.2%, and 0.4%. Last is the Weissengener and Moskowitz. Dapat ang sodium chloride is 0.1% lang. Next is sweet. Kung i-ano siya sa water, standard compound used sa water, sucrose, maging sucrose siya sa DFO screening test is dapat 2% lang. Next, sa Milgard et al. Kay dapat 2.2% siya. Then, sa Jelinek is 0.42 and 0.60%. Sa ASTM test naman sa 1.0, 2.0, and 4.0% siya. Then, ang Weissengener Moskowitz is 1% lang. Sa umami naman kay monosodium glutamate, kung standard compound used in water siya, sa DFO screening test is 0.08%, sa Milgard et al. Test, and the rest kay walay percent. Next is the screening for perception of odors. So in this case, several types of tests are available which accomplish the selection procedure. So naatay 7 ka types nga ginagamit sa perception of odors. These are number 1, sniff and stick test. This test involves a set of odor filled with pens with different scent. Next is the threshold test. This test measures the lowest concentration of an odor that a person can detect. Next is the odor identification test. They need to identify each odor from multiple choices option. This number 4, scratch and sniff booklets. These booklets contain microencapsulated scent that are released when scratched. Next is the taste strips. These strips contain flavor compounds such as sweet, salty, sour, bitter, umami. Next is the flavor capsule test. Similar to taste strips test, this capsule release specific flavor when bitten. And lastly, the psychophysical test. These involve rating the intensity of different smell. So next is the screening of normal color perception, color blindness. So by this, the color blindness is measured by the use of one of several standard ophthalmologic tests, including the Ishihara color blindness test and the Farnsworth-Mansell 100-hue test. So the Ishihara color blindness test, it is a test of one of the most color tests globally. It primarily detects red-green color blindness. It consists of 38 plates, each containing dots of different size and colors. So next is the Farnsworth-Mansell 100-hue test. This test helps detect color vision deficiency by assessing your ability to discern between specific colors and slight hue variation. So ang standard na ginagamit for color perception, color blindness is the Farnsworth-Mansell 100-hue test. Next is the screening test for the assessment of texture. There can be cases when fish is rejected for texture. So these are tests which are essentially done by touch on raw products. So dapat ang characteristic may be assessed, include firmness and springiness. So dapat ang firmness and springiness is na makarakterize siya sa fresh fish and shellfish films or shrimp. Next is the training of assessors. So the length of the basic sensory science training which is included in the course can vary from the 10 hours or 1.5 day to full-length courses of university learning training. So it is suggested that hands-on exercises accompany each section to demonstrate the concept under discussion. So dapat daw ang candidate for assessor is dapat kabalo siya paano mag-prepare sa basic test solution, and ang student itudloan during sa lecture of test tasting. Next is the monitoring of assessors. So the validation of the effectiveness of sensory training and of the consistency of sensory assessment is achieved through ongoing monitoring of the sensory decision made by the assessor. So first is the check samples, which are samples of known quality which are distributed to inspector for examination. They do day-to-day testing facility. So habang nag-training sila, ang inspector ay gina-examine nila kung paano sila check sample sa quality sang isa ka product. Next is the another procedure is the validate the performance of the inspector is through actual accreditation testing and calibration procedures. And lastly, a supplementary method of evaluation of an inspector performance is the accumulation over time of the ongoing inspection results versus any other known information and samples. Sample is the inspection result, consumer complaints, and chemical analysis, and etc. And next is the preparation and handling of samples. So there are types of samples. Sample used for the purpose of training individual in sensory techniques concerning fishery product are the single most important factors to be considered. So there are two types samples to be considered in the training in sensory analysis or inspectors. So first is the controlled spoilage samples. The samples should display or represent a full range of quality as well as the normal range of product characteristics related to odor, flavor, appearance, and texture. Number two, the commercial samples. So whenever possible, the use of commercial samples should be incorporated into the sensory training of individual. So if you are a candidate assessor, the commercial samples is the standard standard uses for the sensory training of individual. Next is the preparation of sample packs. So sample preparation should be started and plenty of time to to allow one to obtain the majority of defect as well as allowing product to go through a curing process if necessary. So first is the baseline. So it is essential that excellent quality material of species or product forms of known history without commercial abuse be obtained to provide a constant reference to the workshop participants. So if possible daw, both fresh and frozen product forms should be included sa preparation sa controlled spoilage samples. The lot should be uniform with respect to its quality at the start of the run. So next is the spoilage generally. Both high and low temperature decomposition spoilage should be included, but knowledge of the species and the standard processing method and at what point of the process spoilage most likely to occur should determine the general spoilage method. So importante siya ni avoid para sa sake for the sake for convenience. If i-chilling siya, spoilage is the issue, the use of frozen fish must be avoided. So careful temperature control is necessity. Next is packaging and storage. The species and type of product from a spoilage run should be taken into account to determine the amount of shelf life one can expect. Next is characteristic of samples. Sensory attributes. A must show normal odor, flavor, appearance, texture, etc. characteristic of the species to be used for samples. B. If product forms normally show characteristics attribute to harvest location, feed odors, etc. include with the controlled spoilage samples if possible. C. Samples with exhibit odorless spoilage or contamination defects must not be too intense to the point of overpowering the participant's senses and affecting judgment of other samples during a training session. D. Samples showing slight to moderate odors of spoilage or contamination provide more of a challenging and better represent conditions. And last, E. Each increment or code must show consistent or similar characteristic to have value when used for training. So halimbawa ang odor dapat naa siya code na same siya sa characteristic sang odor para naa siya value kung gamiton sa training. Next is the chemical attributes. Inclusion of chemical attributes of authentic pack sample can be useful in training. A. Chemical indicators of decompositions or CID are selected that are essentially absent in the fresh product. So dapat ang CID wala ni siya sa fresh product. Next is the CID is selected that will be monitor the composition pathway of interest in that particular product to be used for training. C. The CID should be retained in the process forms. Dapat ginahugasan or ginaluto, naka-storage of the fishery product to be examined. D. The changes in a CID should track the changes in sensory quality in the fishery product. And lastly, a sufficient number of samples should be analyzed for each increment of prepared samples to measure the degree of variation within samples increment. This is especially important for those increments representing the transition from a passable product to the first definite stage of this composition.
Hi, I'm Ivan Mesores and I'll be reporting the recommended International Code of Practice for Smoked Fish. Definition: candling means passing fish over a translucent table illuminated from below to detect parasites and other defects. So it means it is a process of using light to determine the quality of the fish or any products. So, case hardening is the result of too fast drying whereby the outer layer of the products become leather-like. So, it means using a high temperature and low relative humidity. Cold smoking means smoking of fish at temperature where the product does not show any signs of heat coagulation of the protein. So, ang process ani is ang temperature no higher than 100 degrees but between 65 and 85 degrees. Next is dyeing. Means the treatment of fish prior to smoking with a natural or artificial dye approved by the official agency having jurisdiction for the purpose of obtaining the color of the smoked fish. Hot smoking means smoking of fish at temperature and for a sufficient period of time to obtain heat coagulation of the protein throughout. So hot smoking is smoking of fish at a temperature of 70 to 80 degrees Celsius. Note lang, ang coagulation means is mo siyang process na ang blood ginaturn siya into solid or semi-solid state. Next is liquid smoke. Is a solution of wood smoke which when suitably diluted can be used to impart a smoky flavor to fishery products. So it is a concentrate that is made by running smoke from burning woods. Next is mechanical smoking kiln or smoking tunnel. Means the type of equipment in which force flow of smoke and air passes around the fish to be smoked. The required smoke is generated outside the smoking chamber. Next is pickle curing. Is the process whereby fish is mixed with food grade salt or sodium chloride and is stored under the desaltant brine which forms by solution of salt and the water extracted from the fish tissue. So fish are airtight in bottles or barrels with the solution na mix of salt. Next is smoke powder. Is a preparation containing natural wood smoke absorbed by a water-soluble powder of food grade. A dip which will impart a smoky flavor to fishery products can be prepared by dissolving an appropriate quantity of this powder in water. Next is suitable corrosion resistant material. Means impervious material which is free from pits, crevices, and scales. Is non-toxic and unaffected by seawater ice, fish slime, or any other corrosive substance with which it is likely to come in contact. Its surface must be smooth and it must be capable of withstanding exposure to repeated cleaning, including the use of detergents. Ang great example ani is stainless steels. Next is traditional smoking kiln. Means an enclosed space, essentially a large chimney in which fish can be subjected to the action of smoke that flows around the product by natural draw. So it means ang fish nakastored siya sa smokehouse overnight or even a day para ma yes. So it is the raw material requirements in recommended international code of practice for smoked fish. First is general considerations. No fish or ingredients which have deteriorated or decomposed or are not contaminated to extent which renders them unfit for human consumption should be used for the processing of smoked products. So it means when making smoked products like fish or iskamsa, dili na magamit og fish or ingredients na nadaot na or padaot na. Next is fish intended for smoking should receive the same care and attention from time of capture until they are smoked as those intended for marketing fresh. So it means natay careful consideration in even ang katong na fish is pang smoke lang. Dapat tratuhon na to siya same sa mga products na ginasold sa market. Plant facilities and operating requirements. Fish smoking plants should be designed and equipped so that all handling and processing operating can be carried out efficiently, and all materials and product can pass from one stage of processing to the next in orderly manner and minimum delay. So it means dapat na efficiency sa mga smoking plants para smooth ang dagan sa sa mga products. Next is plant facilities and operating requirements. Construction. The plant and surrounding area should be such as can be kept reasonably free from objectionable odors, smoke, dust, or other contamination. So layo siya sa mga baho-baho or hugaw para secure na to ang safety and quality sa itong product. The building should be sufficient in size. Crowding of equipment or personnel will be constructed and kept in good repair. So dapat dako ato ang pag-construct dako ang atong building. They should be designed and constructed to protect against the entrance and harboring of insects, birds, or other vermin and permit ready and adequate cleaning. So dapat ay mga protection against sa insects or mga birds na pwede mag-cause o contamination sa ato ang mga products. So floors should be hard surface, non-absorbent, and adequately drained. So dapat sturdy, good ang mga materials na gigamit. Drain should be of an adequate size, suitable type, equipped with traps and with removal gratings to permit cleaning. Para dali daw ang maintenance. Internal walls should be smooth, waterproof, resistant to fracture, light colored, and readily cleanable. Window sills should be kept to minimum size. Be sloped inward at least 45 Celsius and can be at least 1 meter to 3 feet from the floor. All doors through which fish or their products are moved should be sufficiently wide, dako. Well constructed of suitable material and should be self-closing type. Ceiling should be so designed, constructed, and finished as to prevent accumulation of dirt and condensation, mold development, and flaking, and should be easy to clean. So ang priority la jud ang maintenance, dapat na jud tay maintenance sa atong mga building. Plant facilities and operating requirements. Premises should be well ventilated to prevent excessive heat, condensation, and contamination with obnoxious odors, dust vapor, or smoke. So dapat ang ato ang facility is ventilated para makaprevent ani mga baho-baho or mga abog-abog. A minimum illumination of 220 lux or 20 feet candles in general working areas, and not less than 540 or 50 feet candles at point requiring close examination of the product should be provided and should not alter colors. Separate and adequate should be provided for wood, sawdust, or similar materials used in smoking fish. So dapat na i-separate na storage sa mga gamit sa panglimpyo, gamit sa pag-smoke of fish, sa mga PPE sa mga ato ang magtrabaho dito. Hygienic facilities. Areas where raw materials are received, stored, or handled should be separated from the areas in which product preparation, processing, and packaging are conducted. So dapat na dyan separate, daghan og rooms separated ang mga iba na process na ginabuhat. A separate refuse room or other equally adequate offal storage facilities should be provided on the premises. Palit-ulit lang ta, dapat na dyan separate na room. Any byproduct plant should be entirely separate from the plant which is processing smoke fish for human consumption. An ample supply of cold and hot potable water and or clean seawater under adequate pressure should be available at numerous points throughout the premises at all times during working hours. So hygienic facilities gyapon, when in plant chlorination of water is used, the residual content of free chlorine should be maintained at no more than the minimum effective level for the use intended. So di ta pwede magsobra, di po ta pwede magkulang. So dapat ang katong intended na level na need is ma-reach na to. Ice should be made from potable water or clean seawater should be manufactured, handled, and stored so as to protect it from contamination. So in simple terms, dapat dili ta magpalit or magkuha sa iban, dapat kita jud mismo magbuhat para ma-secure na to ang safety and quality sa atong Where non-potable auxiliary water supply is used, it should be stored in separate tanks, carried in separate lines, identified by contrasting colors, labeled, and have no cross connection or back symphonage with the lines carrying potable water or clean seawater. So, all plumbing and waste disposal lines, including the sewer system, should be large enough to carry peak loads and should be properly constructed. Proper facilities for washing and disinfection of equipment should be provided. So nanapod tayo dapat room para sa ninani na facilities. Like masa hugas or something. Adequate and conveniently located toilet facilities should be provided. Separate gihapon dapat na i-room para sa mga CR. Facilities should be available in the processing areas for employees to wash and dry their hands for disinfection of protective hand coverings. Staff amenities consisting of lunchrooms and changing rooms or rooms containing showers or washing facilities should be provided. Salt and other Ingredients used in curing of fish should be stored dry in a manner to prevent their contamination. Hygiene guys, na facility. Storage facilities should be available for the proper dry storage of packaging materials. If poisonous or harmful materials including cleaning compounds, disinfectants, and pesticides are stored, they should be kept in separate room designed and marked especially for the purpose. So dapat na label ang room para mabalaan hindi may magsagol-sagol ang mga gamit. So dito ta sa equipment, utensils, and working surfaces. All working surfaces, equipment, and utensils used in food handling areas in which may contact food should be made of material which does not transmit toxic substances, odors or taste, is non-absorbent, is resistant to corrosion and is capable of withstanding repeated cleaning and disinfection. So, ang sample ani katong stainless steel. Surfaces should be smooth and free from teeth and crevices. The use of the wood and other materials which cannot be adequately cleaned and disinfected should be avoided, except when their use would clearly not be source of contamination. Use of different materials in such a way that contact corrosion can occur should be avoided. So dapat dili ta mag boards and other surfaces on which fish are cut should be made of impervious material which met the physical requirement for cutting surfaces. So na requirement na materials. I don't know kung nabay tagtaran na stainless. The use of properly designed machines for cutting, washing, splitting, skinning, staking, brining, and tentering, and other similar operation is to be encouraged. Brining and salting vats should be made of suitable corrosion-resistant material and should be so constructed as to permit easy cleaning and complete drainage. So material dapat made siya sa stainless steel and dali ra siya limpyuhon. Fish transport vehicles should be designed to protect fish from warming up during transportation and should be of such material and construction as to permit easy and thorough cleaning. So dapat ang transportation vehicles is siguro na siya AC or mga refrigerator para ma-prevent ang pag-init sa isda habang ginatransport siya. So sa smoking equipment. Processing plants should be equipped with either traditional or mechanical smoking kilns. So duha para ay choices. The use of automated smoke generators is strongly recommended. Instrumentation to monitor and control the smoking process should be applied wherever possible. Equipment used for hanging or laying out of fish during smoking should be constructed of suitable corrosion-resistant materials, stainless steel, and should be designed to be readily cleanable. Equipment used in electrostatic smoking should be managed by skilled operators and should be controlled by automatic regulators of temperature, humidity, and smoke density. Balik ta sa hygienic operating requirements. Fish intended for smoking should always be treated in hygienic manner. So na-mention ganiya na dapat ginatreat siya na carefully like sa mga isda na ginabaligya sa market. Strict hygienic procedures should be observed during handling, proper equipment, and needed para sa mga workers. Processing and storage of smoked fish and fishery products to prevent production of toxin like Clostridium botulinum. The building, equipment, utensils, and other physical facilities of the plant should be clean, in good repair, and should be maintained in an orderly and hygienic condition. Splitting and cutting boards should be frequently and thoroughly scrubbed and treated with disinfectant. Wherever practicable, the boards should be continuously flushed with running potable water or clean seawater during use. So dapat ang mga equipments hugasan tagahuman and na ay mga disinfectant na gina-apply para mas ma-improve pa ang cleaning. So all machines used for cutting, scaling, washing, filleting, splitting, tentering, or other processing equipment used in similar operations should be thoroughly cleaned, disinfected, and rinsed during rest or meal breaks and before resumption of production of following other work stoppages. Utensils and food contact surfaces of equipment should be protected from contamination. Cleaning of smoking equipment should be made into regular routine, so daily ang paglimpyo. Brine used in brining fish should be changed as frequently as necessary to prevent accumulation of fatty and deposition of sludge of solid salt mixed with fish residue and other foreign matter. Only new and clean boxes, cartons, and wrapping materials should be used for the transport and distribution of smoked fish and similar products. So bawal na to ulit-ulito no gamit ng mga box na nagamit na. Dapat bago. Where returnable boxes are used, they should be corrosion resistant material and should be thoroughly cleaned and disinfected after use. So kung magamit matag ka ng returnable boxes, dapat made siya sa stainless. Only new and clean boxes, cartons, and wrapping material should be used for the transport and distribution of smoked fish and similar products. Where returnable boxes are used, they should be corrosion resistant material and should be thoroughly cleaned and disinfected. Ulit-ulit lang. Removal of solid and semi-solid or liquid waste from fish unloading, holding, and processing area should be on continuous or near continuous basis, using water and or appropriate equipment so that these areas are kept clean and there is no danger of contaminating the product. Effective measures should be taken to protect against the entrance into the premises and the harborage on the premises of insects, rodents, birds, or other vermin. Dogs, cats, and other animals should be excluded from areas where fish is received, handled, and processed or stored. So, dapat wala mga hayop na nasa area. All persons working in smoked fish plant should maintain a high degree of personal cleanliness, hygienic ang mga tao. While on duty, should take all necessary precautions to prevent the contamination of fish or fish products or ingredients with any foreign substances. No person who is known or suspected to be suffering from or who is a carrier of a disease likely to be transmitted through food or has infected wound or open lesion should be engaged in the preparation. Conveyances
Hello
used for
everyone.
transporting fish should be clean
I am
and
RJ Alisada.
disinfected
I'm
immediately after
continuing
each
the
use
report of my
and should be
group
maintained
mates.
as to not constitute a source of contamination for product.
Operating practices and production requirements. So, smoked fish of fish product should be of a good quality, well prepared and packaged so that they will remain attractive and safe to eat. So, kailangan natin na ang mga products natin is good quality jud siya. So, kailangan prepare jud siya sa pagka-package niya. So, para ang pag makita sa mga consumers kabalo sila nga safe siya kaunon pag naka-prepare jud ang pagka-package sa atong products. And handling raw material. All fish products and ingredients used in fish smoking establishment should be free from spoilage and contamination. So, kailangan din siya pag ato ang mga ingredients sa atong fish products is kailangan din siya layo siya sa mga contamination, sa mga spoilage para pag i-consume sa atong mga i-consume sa atong mga consumer is safe siya sa ilang health. So next is the fresh fish which cannot be processed immediately on arrival should be chilled in clean containers and stored in specially designated areas within the plant where they will be protected from heat and weather condition and will not be contaminated by dust. So kung i-stored man nato ang atong mga fresh fish, so kailangan dito dyan sa mga designated areas na sa planta na protected siya sa mga dili pwede sila ng mga temperature siguro. So next is all fish should be carefully inspected, sorted or cooled before they processed and any damage, contaminated or otherwise unacceptable fish should be discarded. So siguro kailangan jud i-inspect jud jag tarong ang mga fish products na to or i-sort jud jag tarong para dili na siya para kung mapagawas man siya is wala siya bad comments sa mga consumer na to kay tungod wala gi tarong og check ang mga gipagawas na products. So next is all fish should be thoroughly washed before processing or immediately after operation like scaling or gutting. So obviously naman kailangan jud hugasan og tarong atong mga isda bago siya scaling or i-gutting siya. So next is raw fish are being gutted, hidden skin, bone or portion. This operation should be carried out and cleaned by hygienic manner. So ibig sabihin is kailangan jud dili lang hugas lang, so kailangan jud nga hygienic matter di siya tarungon jud nimo hugas ang. So next is towning of frozen fish prior to processing should be done in the manner recommended in the recommended International Code of Practices for Frozen Fish. Next is when frozen fish is used, the temperature in any part of the towed product should be not rise above 7 degrees Celsius before being processed. The processing cannot commence immediately. The found material should be kept chilled. So next is brining, pickling, and dry salting. So first is brining should be carried out the full understanding of the effect on the quality of the final product and should be done under strict hygienic conditions. And next, the salt used in the brining or salting of fish should be processed and unprepared composition for the product. And next is large fish should be split or cut. So i-cut yun ang mga dagko nga isda is i-split jud siya and scarified before brining or dry salting to allow for more effectively and an uniform salt penetration. So next is brining may be combined with a coloring process that dyes used in coloring fish should be approved by the official agency having jurisdiction. Next is fresh brine should be prepared at least each day before the start of operation. And next is during pickling, fish should be kept at a temperature below 3 degrees Celsius. Next is the ratio of brine to fish should be at least 1:1 weight when using a saturated brine. And next, before smoking, the salt content of heavily salted fish must be reduced by prolonged immersion in clean water. And next is immediately after brining, fish should be suspended on rods or hooks or laid out on trays for drying and smoking. And next is dripping and drying of fish prior to smoking should be carried out under controlled condition and in hygienic manner. And next is if food additives are to be used, the advice of the food technology gist should be sought and the approval of the official agency having jurisdiction should be obtained. So, next is fish for dry salting should be properly arranged to ensure uniform condition and proper drainage. In the dry salting of fish, the amount of salt, the time and temperature should be carefully controlled to attain the desired product. Fish which is dry salt in pile should be restocked periodically with the addition of fresh salts to ensure uniform curing condition and pressing. For salting of small fatty fish such as anchovy or small herring, dry salting or cage curing may be used. So, ang next is smoking. For smoking naman, the wood shaving or sawdust should be dry and free from soil dust and harmful substances such as wood preservatives and paint. Tama. So, ginamin is kung ang imong gamiton sa nga kahoy is pilion po nimo tong mga kahoy na habang ga-smoke ka smoking is pilion nimo tong mga kahoy na wala siguro mga pintura or mga nga makakos gud og nga makadaot sa imong isda gina-smoke nga isda. So, ash derived from burning wood or sawdust should be prevented from being deposited on the product. If liquid smoke or smoke powder is used, approval should be obtained from the appropriate agency having jurisdiction. Next is, in preparation for smoking, care should be taken to arrange the fish on tenters, hooks or on trays in such a manner as to provide for uniform smoke absorption. Next is, it is recommended that fish to be smoked should undergo additional drying before smoking commences. And next, during cold smoking, the temperature of the fish should not exceed a level at which heat coagulation of protein takes place. Next is during hot smoking, the time temperature combination should be sufficient to obtain a complete coagulation of the protein. And next, after completion of smoking and before packaging, the warm products should be immediately cooled to the ambient temperature or lower. Next, fish products that are to be canned and retorted should be smoked very lightly. And next is in case of a fire, a mechanical kiln, the fan should be switched off, all dampers, close all other supplies of electricity to clean should also be turned off. Next, packaging, storage, and distribution. So in packaging, material should be of a type approved by the official agency having jurisdiction, and lightly salted and smoked fish or fish products should be not be kept in chilled storage. Vacuum or gas packaged products should be stored at an appropriate safe temperature, and smoked fish and similar products which are not frozen should be packed for transport so that there is direct contact with ice or meltwater. And next is boxes contain smoked fish or similar products should be handled very carefully. And next, carton wrapping and other packaging materials should not be stored in processing carton. Next is it is desirable that each hygiene control program, it is desirable that each smoked fish processing plant in its own interest designated a single individual whose duties are probably divorced from production to be held responsibility for the cleanliness of establishment. So, laboratory control, in addition to any control by the official agency having jurisdiction, it is desirable that each smoked fish processing plant in its own interest should have access to laboratory control to establish the quality of the products processed and to monitor the hygiene of processing. So, and product specification, smoked fish and smoked fish products should be free from microorganisms in amounts harmful to humans. And smoked fish products should be free from chemical contaminants in amount which may represent a hazard to health. And smoked fish products should be to the extent possible in good manufacturing practices. And next is smoked fish products should be comply with any requirements set from by the Codex Alimentarius Commission on Pesticide Residues and Food Additives as contained in Codex list of maximum limits for pesticide reduces or Codex commodity standards or shall comply with the requirements on pesticides, reduces, and food additives of the country in which the fish will be sold. So in the next slides, my classmate will be the reporter. So thank you guys.